It's 2016, and we're a few years removed from Man of Steel. Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice is heading into cinemas, with Suicide Squad not far behind. By the end of the year, we'll have new cinematic versions of Superman and Batman, along with the first portrayals of Wonder Woman, The Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman on the big screen. Warner Bros. And DC are scrambling fast to build their own cinematic universe. Most would say they're moving too fast, but in their minds, they have no choice. They're falling far behind. Marvel is already into their third phase. They produced 14 films in just 8 years, 2 television series, and 3 shows for their Defenders universe on Netflix. In total, Marvel has amassed over $7 billion at the box office with characters most moviegoers have never heard of before. Marvel has managed to master the art of storytelling by both staying true to their comic book origin and not overloading new viewers with too much world building. On top of this, they've managed to do something that DC never considered. They've managed to bring together superheroes and successfully cross them over in not 1 but 2 Avengers movies. Marvel is kicking DC's ass. And it's clear to everyone that they've already won the war before DC could even decide if Superman would wear his underwear on the inside or out. And they're doing it with characters that no one outside of a comic book store has ever heard of. There's a good chance you know who Batman and Superman are without having read a comic book or seen one of their movies. But Iron Man, Hawkeye, Groot? Unlikely. So DC has to play catch up. When Marvel took 6 films to bring their Avengers together, DC will bring their Justice League together in 2. It's a risky move, and many would say a failure before it starts, but the box office numbers say something different. In roughly the same amount of time DC manages to pull in almost $6 billion with only half the amount of movies, it would seem that cinema goers want to see DC's more familiar characters over Marvel's, but DC is drawing more and more dissatisfaction from their audiences. Most fans would still remember the massive uproar on the internet when Ben Affleck was cast as Batman. The headlines from Cyborg actor Ray Fisher, when he spoke out about unprofessional behaviour on the Justice League, said that the Suicide Squad was re-edited by a trailer company, and of course Superman's baby mouth. In preparation for this episode, I sat down and rewatched the DCEU movies. I had low expectations, and if asked, I consider myself a DC fan over Marvel. I knew of Spider-Man and the Incredible Hulk growing up, but I never really did read any of their comics. I wanted the DC movies to be awesome. How could they not be? They had Batman for Bat's sake. The rewatch was okay, but with each film I saw holes in the storyline you can drive a Mack truck through. Moments or massive plot points that either annoyed me or flat out drove me nuts. How could DC make such horrendous creative decisions, I asked myself. The easiest answer is that the Marvel movies are made by people who know the characters inside and out, and not by the usual Hollywood committee. Of course, with the Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Shazam movies, the DCEU films became more enjoyable to watch. Characters were allowed to have fun and not be so fucking serious all the time. It could be said that the damage was already beyond repair by this point, and this was before Warner Bros. Started cancelling films for a tax break. But what if we went back to 2016 and made some changes? What if we used a couple fan theories? Ideas born from promo shots and trailers. Stuff that whipped up chat and excitement online but ultimately went nowhere as a basis. I believe if we put these fan theories together, we could build a better DC cinematic universe. Have you heard the theory about Jared Leto's Joker? The theory, put simply, is that before donning the makeup and becoming the clown prince of crime, Jared Leto's Joker was none other than Batman's trusted sidekick Robin. It's an interesting theory, and certainly gives us a lot of places to take the story. What were the events that turned Robin into the Joker? How long has he been the Joker? And how could Batman defeat someone who knows all his moves? The story would take several films to tell, if done right. We would get our first piece of the puzzle in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. It would further be developed later that year in Suicide Squad. We might even get our first real hint of who was behind the makeup in that film. And then it would all come to head in a standalone Batman film. All the pieces were there. In fact, they're still there as of 2019's Joker. All DC has to do is put them together. But let's be honest. For a studio so obsessed with creating their own cinematic universe, DC aren't very good at building one. But I think it can still work. The theory grew out of a scene in Batman v Superman. In it we see Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne standing before a glass case in the Batcave containing a defaced Robin costume. Written on the suit is a taunt from the Joker. Jokes on you, Batman. There are even bullet holes in the suit, which seems to match scars on Jared Leto's Joker. Over the years, we've got several Robins. Dick Grayson is the original Boy Wonder. He's appeared in the 1960s Batman series, in Batman Forever and Batman and Robin from the 90s, and various incarnations of the Teen Titans. Eventually, Grayson went solo and took the name Nightwing. The mantle passed to Jason Todd in the 1980s, and it's here that the theory starts to take shape. Apparently, Jason Todd was not well liked by Bat fans, and when they were given the chance to vote on whether he lived or died, the call came in to kill the little sucker, and the Joker did the honours. Further Robins would follow, including Tim Drake, not long after Jason's death, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves. When Bat fans saw the face Robin's suit in the Batman v Superman trailer, they knew that Jason Todd's death was part of Batfleck's backstory. Of course, it was originally intended to be Dick Grayson that died and not Jason Todd, until someone clued Zack Snyder in. Coupled with the costume, another shot in the trailer all but clinched the theory. In it, Bruce Wayne receives a newspaper clipping. mocking the destruction of Wayne Tower from the beginning of the film. "You let your family die," the note said. The handwriting looked very similar to the Joker's on the Robin costume, as did the tone, so it must have come from the same source. And then we get into the film itself. There's a line spoken by Bruce Wayne to Alfred that for me seals the deal.
20 years in Gotham, Alfred. We've seen what promises are worth. How many good guys are left? How many stayed that way?
That comment seemed to imply that a hero had turned villain somewhere along the way. So why not the boy wonder? It now falls to us to theorize and begin to build a DCEU that could have been. What if the Joker never killed Jason Todd? What if he violently attacked Jason Todd and left him for dead? What if Jason then hunted down and killed the Joker, but in his fragile mental state he snapped, and he took on the Joker's identity? And that Joker is the Jared Leto Joker we see in Suicide Squad. I think it's a pretty cool theory, but it wasn't what DC had in mind. Instead, we discovered that while the Joker did kill a Robin in the movie's backstory, the clippings were from Lex Luthor, part of his plot in the film. At least for once, it had nothing to do with real estate. Of course, the theory continued despite DC's lack of foresight. In Suicide Squad, we meet a young soldier played by Scott Eastwood. People theorized he was actually the original Robin Dick Grayson sent undercover by Batman to keep an eye on the squad. Of course, Eastwood's character turned out to be a nobody, with barely any lines or personality. But how cool would it have been if they had gone down this road? Of course, for all this to work, we need an original Joker to attack Jason Todd in the first place. One to send him over the edge. And wouldn't you know it, we have one. In Joaquin Phoenix's Joker from the 2019 film. So all the pieces are there for the theory to work. Joaquin Phoenix's Joker terrorizes Gotham on and off for decades until Bruce Wayne grows up and becomes Batman. They battle it out for several years, long enough for Dick Grayson to grow up, have a falling out with his mentor, become Nightwing, and for Batman to bring Jason Todd into the Batcave. Inexperienced, the second Robin faces off against the Joker and comes out on the losing side. He winds up in intensive care, but eventually escapes the hospital and tracks the Joker down. He wants revenge. To hell with Bruce Wayne's teaching. Batman's in pursuit, but he isn't quick enough to stop the boy wonder from murdering the Joker. This is the last straw. His mind breaks. He paints a bloody smile on his face and begins to laugh madly before escaping into the night. Like the man that inspired him, Jason Todd's Joker causes chaos in Gotham. People die by his hands, lives are changed forever, but Batman finally manages to catch him and lock him away in Arkham Asylum. Batman hopes one day the boy he once knew can be saved, but Jason Todd is too far gone. In Arkham, Joker meets the would-be Harley Quinn. She falls under his spell and helps him escape. Together they sow chaos throughout Gotham, occasionally running afoul of the Bat. But Jason knows all his moves and manages to evade him for years. From time to time, he sends Batman little reminders that he's still out there, that he knows who's underneath the cowl, and that it's only a matter of time before he comes for Bruce. Meanwhile, Batman has other things on his plate. The events of Man of Steel have taken place, and with it the threat of the Superman has captured his attention. He sets his sights on neutralizing this threat, and we get the events of Batman v Superman. But in our altered version of this film, the "you let your family die" note is from the new Joker. It doesn't change anything major in the film's story, it just serves to push the Caped Crusader deeper into his obsession. Taking out the alien is now even more important, because doing so will allow him to return to hunting down the Joker. With the death of Superman, Batman seeks out other metahumans to deal with the impending alien threat in Justice League. But Bruce Wayne hasn't forgotten his former pupil for a second. He needs a way to trap the Joker, a way he doesn't expect. So he reaches out to his old ward Dick Grayson, someone he hasn't spoken to in years, certainly not during Jason's time in the Batcave, and he asks him to get close to Jason's only weak spot, Harley Quinn. He does this by joining the Suicide Squad, placing himself as close to Harley Quinn as he can. After the events of Suicide Squad, the Joker breaks Harley out of prison. It seems that Bruce's plan has failed, but he's managed to plant a seed of doubt in their relationship, and in Birds of Prey, the Joker and Harley Quinn break up. Jason is now all alone. He's vulnerable. Batman and Nightwing have a chance to stop him once and for all, and without Harley by his side, the Joker has no one he can trust. But after the breakup, Jason Todd has gone aground. The dynamic duo work together to find him, but come up short. We don't need to see this, but it does explain their absence in Birds of Prey. We now find ourselves in a standalone Batfleck film. The Joker resurfaces more dangerous than ever. The random acts of chaos he has caused in the past now pale in comparison to what he does. His acts are now more focused, less random, and far more deadly. This is a cinematic Joker we've never seen before. The movie begins with a young woman working in a library. She goes about her day unaware she's being watched and then heads home. She gets dressed for date night and answers the door expecting her boyfriend, but she barely has the door open when the gun fires. It tears right through her body. We see the shot in all its gory glory. We need to see it. We need to feel it. It's going to drive everything forward. She falls to the ground bleeding out, and the gunman steps inside. "I want you to give him a message from me." "Did you get it?" The Joker laughs and disappears back into the night as sirens close on the location. At the hospital, we learn the woman is Barbara Gordon, daughter of Commissioner Gordon, and while she'll live, she'll never walk again. This is the first time we're meeting Barbara, but it's obvious her significance. We might as well have Jenna Malone play the role of Barbara Gordon. After all, fans theorised that her waste of a character in Batman v Superman was indeed her, so why not make it official? Through flashbacks, we learned that Barbara was Batgirl, and that she continued to work with Batman after Dick Grayson went solo. She formed a close bond with Jason after he joined the team, and only retired from crime fighting after he killed the original Joker. Because of Barbara's attack, Nightwing is now on the warpath. He's going to do what Batman has been unable to do and kill the Joker once and for all. He and Barbara have been on and off since they were kids. In fact, things were so serious, he was planning to marry her. Nightwing tracks Jason Todd down, and a vicious battle takes place. At the same time, Batman is rushing to intercept the two Robins, but like before, he isn't fast enough. He finds Nightwing barely alive, and as Bruce Wayne stands over yet another injured Robin, he can't help but wonder if he's looking at his next mortal enemy. Joker continues to come after Batman's allies. Alfred, Lucius Fox, Gordon. The big names live, but they are all taken off the board in some way or form. Batman is now working alone for the first time in his life. It all works to drive him to the very edge. His methods become more brutal than those we saw in Batman v Superman, and he stops playing by his rules. Batman and Joker aren't going to stop until one of them is dead. Throughout the movie, we see a teenage boy popping up from time to time, but we're uncertain of who he is. It'd be great if this boy could appear in the previous movies as well, but let's assume we only have him for this one film. We see him grow up in the shadows of Batman's adventures, witness the death of Dick Grayson's family, even some of the key events that made Jason Todd into the Joker. He finally comes into play with Alfred's death. As I said, most of the big names survived Joker's wrath, but for a large chunk of the movie we believe that Alfred was one of the big names that didn't. Of course, this isn't the case. In a scene paying homage to Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight, the Joker manages to get his hands on Alfred. The old man tries reasoning with the boy he knew, but Jason has fallen so deep into his madness that his old name means nothing to him anymore. Batman rushes to save Alfred, but he's not quick enough. The building he's being held in explodes before a helpless Batman. The Joker's making a point that Bruce has grown too old, too soft, and too slow, that nothing he does is enough to stop him. And worse yet, Bruce is starting to believe this too. Later in the film, we find ourselves in a sudden trippy flashback. We quickly discovered the flashback is a dream of Alfred being captured and almost dying, told from the old man's point of view. The last thing we see in the flashback is the teenage boy coming to his rescue before the Big Bang. Alfred comes awake. The boy's been taking care of him. He couldn't risk taking Alfred to the hospital. It's gotten crazy out there, and Batman has stopped responding to the bat signal. Alfred knows this means Bruce has reached the end of his rope, and asks the boy for help. Batman arms up for his final battle with the Joker. He equips himself with weapons, the kind we've never seen Batman use before. They're designed for one thing and one thing only, to kill the Joker. And if Batman must die to end the threat of the Joker once and for all, so be it. He's left messages for Dick and Barbara should this happen. Alfred and the boy fight their way to Wayne Manor. The boy has some mad skills, but Bruce is long gone by the time they get there. Alfred tries ridding himself of the boy, but he's taken a liking to the old man and refuses to leave. Alfred is forced to share with him the secret of the Batcave. But the boy isn't surprised. He's been able to piece together that Bruce Wayne was Batman long ago. I mean, who else could afford all those wonderful toys? Alfred finds Bruce's messages on the Bat computer. There's even one there for the butler. In it, Bruce hopes that somehow Alfred was still alive, but in his heart of hearts he knows that isn't the case. He speaks with sorrow about all he's lost. It's clear that even surviving this, Bruce Wayne is a broken man and may never be able to recover. He's all alone, Alfred remarks. But he doesn't have to be, the boy replies. Alfred looks over at the teenager. He's standing before Jason Todd's old Robin suit. They exchange a look, and the boy smashes open the case. We're now at the big battle between Batman and the Joker. Mr. J has alerted the media. He wants as big an audience as he can get. Now this is as good a place as any to throw in a few cameos. Harley, the Justice League, hell, even a few members of the Rogues Gallery we've yet to meet in the DCEU. An epic battle takes place. Blood, explosions. Think Superman vs. Zod, but more grounded, more human. Batman has the Joker where he wants him. The next move will be the Bat's final one, to kill the Joker and end this whole mess once and for all. But he can't do it. Behind the white skin, all he can see is the boy he took in, the boy who trusted him, the boy he's now decided to kill. And beyond that, he sees his parents and all the people he has failed over the years to save. In this one moment, all Batman can see is every one of his failures, and he breaks. This gives the Joker the opportunity he needs, and he begins to attack. Bruce can barely defend himself. The Joker stands over the broken bat and is about to kill him when the roar of a motorbike reaches the Joker's ears. Out of the night, the boy that saved Alfred launches off the bike, now dressed in Jason Todd's Robin suit. And it's in this moment that Tim Drake becomes the third Robin. They begin to fight. The second Robin turned Joker against the new boy Wonder. They're evenly matched, and it's a real head spinner for Bruce seeing Jason as the Joker fighting someone in Jason's old Robin costume. Robin tries rallying Bruce, telling him he's not alone, that Alfred's alive, but nothing gets through. It's only when the Joker gets the upper hand that Bruce snaps out of it. He puts Jason Todd down, ending the fight. He looks over the new Robin and takes his hand. A new dynamic duo is born. Some time has passed. We're now at the wedding of Barbara Gordon and Dick Grayson. Bruce watches on as they tie the knot, confessing later to Dick that he's not sure how much longer he can do this, that the day may come that another must take on the mantle of Batman, but for now, he needs time away from Gotham. Dick promises to watch out for the old city while Bruce is gone, and to train the new Robin. We also see the fate of Jason Todd, locked up in yet another prison. He promises the guards that he'll break out and bathe in their blood. Bruce boards his jet and flies out of Gotham, as Dick and Tim head out into the night to fight crime as Nightwing and Robin. Barbara, now calling herself Oracle, watches over them from behind the Bat computer. As all this is happening, an old homeless man looks up into the sky as the Bat signal comes to life. He watches it for a moment and begins to laugh. While we don't specifically say so, we have planted the seed for future films, hinting that the original Joaquin Phoenix Joker may still be alive. The last thing we see is Bruce Wayne looking out the window of his plane as Gotham grows smaller. The Bat signal reaches into the nighttime sky, calling him home. One day, Batman will return. So what do you think? Could a multi-movie story have worked in building up the DCEU better than the choices we ended up with? This way, we could potentially reboot Batman in-universe without needing to start over with a new story. But I guess it all becomes a moot point with the release of this year's The Batman film. But it's fun to imagine what could have been.